What's going on YouTube? Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another Blu-ray Spotlight review, and this title I was actually really looking forward to checking out, and just recently got a review copy of it, so I was very eager to get this fired up. It is Wes Craven's The Serpent and the Rainbow, out in the Scream Factory Collector's Edition, and this is a film I've owned on VHS. I never did have the Laserdisc and DVD, but it's always a bare bones affair, so it was cool to see a collector's edition of this finally. And in the wake of Wes Craven's passing, it was definitely about time this received some recognition. So if you haven't seen it, Serpent and the Rainbow was a film from 1987, and it is a loose adaptation of a book that I had read in high school called The Serpent and the Rainbow from author Wade Davis. And Wade Davis had traveled into the jungles of South America on numerous adventures and had gone to Haiti, and one of the things he was searching for was an anesthesia alternative, and this eventually led him into the world of voodoo because apparently there was a real zombie potion, and not that would bring an actual corpse back to life, but would actually give a person a semblance of death, enough so that they could be buried essentially and considered dead and then brought back to life. And as you learn throughout the book and in the movie itself, the kind of brain dead zombie-esque vibe is brought about by lack of oxygen while you're waiting in a coffin for someone to uncover you. And then it's also very socio-political, and it gets into the Tonton Macoute and Baby Doc, and a lot of that stuff kind of went over my head when I had read the book, and some of that's in the movie too, regime change and a lot of civil unrest and that sort of stuff. But there's allegations that the brutal, police could use this, zombie potion to control people and instill fear in people. And there's also in the film the kind of concept that you can harvest their souls and all this stuff and make them go into other people's dreams. And as a Wes Craven picture, it was definitely a little different, and that is kind of a bone of contention because some of the people involved in the film saw this as an opportunity to make more of a Year of Living Dangerously type film as opposed to a Wes Craven horror film, whereas the studio Universal was looking to market a Wes Craven horror film. So during the adaptation process, they definitely had to change things. Bill Pullman is in here as the main anthropologist character, but he's not Wade Davis because they had to change so much. So it starts off with him going on a kind of vision quest in South America, and it kind of gives you a teaser as to some of the things he'll experience later going to Haiti after a pharmaceutical company kind of sends him off on this mission to try and find this wonder drug or anesthetic alternative. And he meets a woman down in Haiti who has had experience with some of the other quote-unquote zombies, and he's looking for one in particular that was recently found and can supposedly still speak and might have some information on how to find this stuff. So it's a pretty good mystery on that front. I had forgotten about how hokey the narration was. There's a lot of dry narrative monologues telling you what's going on and all that. And I could have done without that for the most part. It would have just been fine seeing what was going on. But the longer Bill Pullman's character stays in Haiti, the more he starts uncovering things. And Paul Winfield's a local voodoo priest, but there's also the head of the local Tonton Macoute, who is a very dangerous man and is wondering why Bill Pullman is digging so much into all this local lore and what's going on. So up until that point, it's playing it straightforward. There's some scenes of horror, but it's all either imagination or during the vision quest scene. So it gives Wes Craven a lot of opportunities to stage a lot of dreamish sequences, and they're very effective. There's some very, very memorable kind of visual centerpieces here, including a voodoo bride that's invading Bill Pullman's dreams in different scenes, and some very Freddy-esque long arms that come after him in one bit. And as the film starts moving farther and farther away from political intrigue and science mystery, it definitely has a bit of a supernatural edge to it. And of course, you have to have a little bit of a romance with Kathy Tyson's character. But I don't think it overstepped its bounds. I think Wes Craven did a good job at balancing these different elements. And even when some things that are fantastical happen on the screen, you can easily view them from the perspective that they're not actually happening in the real world. They're happening to that character either mentally or spiritually. So there is some over-the-top wild visuals later on in the film, but as to whether or not they actually went on. There's even a Paul Guilfoyle from CSI is in the film as the guy from the pharmaceutical company who welcomes Bill Pullman back with open arms in one scene. Michael Goff is in there too, and Paul Guilfoyle's wife has this freak out where she's seemingly possessed by the villain of the piece, and you see all this stuff going on, but then you realize later on at the end of it, they're all concerned about her well-being, and Paul Guilfoyle is putting a billfold in her mouth as if she's having a seizure, and then you realize maybe she didn't really do all the crazy stuff that we saw through the perspective of Bill Pullman's character. Maybe she was just having a seizure the whole time. So I really liked how they played that. But there's a lot of great cinematography in the film. There's a pilgrimage scene, where Kathy Tyson and Bill Pullman's characters are like kind of sleeping in a candlelit jungle atmosphere. Very, very beautiful stuff. So yeah, it's a cool kind of deviation from the typical Wes Craven product, and you could see he was looking to try something else on. So it's cool to see it finally in high def, because this is something I've had on VHS for the longest time, and I saw it in the theaters, but it was a long time since I've seen it look this good. So yes, a new HD transfer was made last year from Interpositive Element, and it is definitely stunning. The color scheme of the film is sometimes it's very, very vibrant and primary, but for the most part it's very earth tones and pastels and kind of muted tones. But I mean, the colors are very gorgeous. There's one scene there, Paul Winfield's HQ, and there's all these kind of dilapidated walls, and just the patina of it is gorgeous. So much detail, especially in the fabrics of the costumery and all that. I couldn't believe how alive the film looked. The VHS copy, I remember actually bringing it over to a friend's house to watch on a giant old RPTV, CRT TV, and just how crappy it looked, because the CRT guns were misaligned, and it was just washed out and lame looking. So I've never seen this film like looking sharp. Even on DVD, it looked okay, but it was an older release, I think an image release. It was kind of very digital looking, etc. So yeah, it's great seeing this thing restored in HD glory. The sound is DTS HD Master Audio 2.0, but Brad Feidel's score in particular is a stunner here. And of course it does bear a lot of resemblance to his rhythmic, dun 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 from The Terminator, but with much more of a jungle flair and an island flair. The percussive elements are really, really cool and sound alive, and you can pinpoint them in your room. So I think just from the grandness of the score, how well that's delivered, I like this a lot. Then the effects, are mostly immersive. There's not a lot of, obviously, discrete directional surround elements or anything like that, but the film just has a good immersive vibe. And yeah, I like the sound of it a lot, so definitely smokes my VHS copy. Extras are, decent. For a collector's edition, you may be expecting a little bit more, but there's the, typical TV spot, the trailer, and the marketing for this film was very, very memorable because of that whole scene with Bill Pullman stumbling on the street with the bloody cross on his head, saying, "Don't bury me, I'm not dead yet." I mean, that stuff's so effective. So it's cool seeing some of that marketing now. And there is also a short, about a half an hour long documentary featuring a lot of members of the crew talking about the film, and not super in-depth, but their recollections are interesting, especially apparently this was a very notable film for people to work on, a lot of hurdles in accomplishing what they were out to do. But yeah, so it talks with DP John Lindley, special makeup effects artists Lance Anderson and David Anderson, and Wade Davis. It was pretty cool. It looks like it was for like a Skype video chat or something like that, but it was really cool to have the input of Wade Davis, the author of the original story that was based on, and see what his kind of attitudes towards the film were. So that was cool, and everybody, of course, has their own ideas as to whether or not the film should have gone supernatural. But the thing is, as a horror film, it really isn't a horror film. There's some horrific aspects to it, but and some horrific aspects of just what happens to Bill Pullman's character, but not in a traditional horror movie sense. So that stuff was pretty interesting. The only thing that was weird is Bill Pullman's input on the film in the documentary is taken from directly, I think, from the audio commentary, because he's not actually on camera. It's just audio snippets placed within the context of the documentary. So yes, there is a Bill Pullman commentary track, and it is interesting, but it is truncated. It doesn't last the whole running time of the film. It's only about an hour or so before he had to actually run and get on the plane and go shoot a movie. But it was cool that he was willing to kind of look back on a film this early in his career. This and Spaceballs were the first things I had ever really seen him in. So there was a lot of good back and forth between him and the moderator, and not always super scene specific, but just kind of giving you a feel for what it was like to make the movie. But of course, if you had already watched the documentary, you're going to notice that you've seen all that stuff before, or you've heard all that stuff before. But I definitely appreciate the effort that was given into getting input from Bill Pullman, and even if it's only for a part of the running time. It would have been kind of cool if they had the moderator either continue to speak for the other part of the film, but yeah, you just turned it off at that point. And obviously it would have been great to have some input from Wes Craven, but I think the bulk of this material was put together after his passing last year. And there's a nice little tribute to him visually as the film starts. But it's great to see some Universal catalog titles that are just kind of kicking around and languishing in obscurity, given a little bit of an extra kick. So yeah, I definitely appreciate that Scream Factory dragged this one back out, kicking and screaming from the grave, and gave it to me again in high def nonetheless. So yeah, it looks gorgeous. I really enjoyed the DTS 2.0 soundtrack. And yeah, if you're a fan of Wes Craven's work, or I guess horror films, though this is going to disappoint you if you're expecting Nightmare on Elm Street in Haiti or something like that. But if you're a fan of kind of genre pictures and stuff like that, check this out for sure. And yeah, hopefully you guys had a good time hanging out. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're having a great day, and talk to you soon.